Well, here we are. It's July 31st. I'm going to be planting this brassica food plot behind me here today. You can see all the buckwheat is about waist to almost, chest high down there in the wetter spots. This was all regrowth of brassicas and winter wheat this spring when I planted the buckwheat into it. The buckwheat didn't grow. A lot of it didn't grow until about 3 weeks after planting, because I planted it early June. We got a super long stretch without any rain, almost like 3 weeks, like I said. So this stuff, if it would have got rain like that same week of planting, it probably would have been all about chest high. That end way down there is going to be Whitetail Institute wintergreens, and this end up here close to where the deer mainly come out, I'm going to have the Sweet Feast Brassica blend from Northwoods Whitetails, the Jeff Sturgis blend, I guess. That blend has a lot of radish in it, tillage radish. The Whitetail wintergreens doesn't have any radish. I know they like eating on those radishes early, like September and early October. Once you get to November and December, those radishes start to get frosted out. So that's why I want to have these close. And then down there more is where we'll have the wintergreens and more winter food, as well as about 1.5 acres of corn there and 1 acre of soybeans right there. So this is our core food source this winter. We have about maybe a 1/2 acre of soybeans that way in a food plot, and then over on the other side of that corn, another maybe like a couple 100 yards, we have another big food source with about maybe like 1/2 acre of corn and about 1 acre of soybeans. So a lot of food out here. This is the main killing spot right here next to bedding. They come out and they move off to the bigger food sources. This is a really hard spot to hunt because a lot of times they come out and they kind of hang here. But I got a tree stand back there, not on the food plot. My dad likes to hunt right here. I don't like to hunt here. I have spooked deer back there too, so it's just a really hard spot to hunt. But we usually don't hunt it too much anyways. Try to keep it unpressured and just come out on the best days. I hunt a lot of public land anyways, so anyways, I got the Culch Packer here set up. So I'm going to broadcast. I got some fertilizer too, the 92331 fertilizer. This hasn't been fertilized in like probably 2 or 3 years, so I'm going to put some fertilizer down and I'll start seeding. Well, I just finished up seeding. Take a look down right here. This is all the old regrowth of brassica this spring. And right here's some winter rye actually. And if you look down, like right here, there's a seed. That's a wintergreen seed. Another one right there. Let's see, right here's another one. The wintergreen seeds you can see, but the Sweet Feast Brassica blend, their seeds aren't coated. They're all black and brown, and they pretty much blend right in. I was looking over there, I couldn't see any of them, but I definitely seeded some down. It's really important that you don't overseed your brassicas. It's really easy to do. I've done it a lot in the past. You just want to really make sure you're only putting out a little bit of seed. Less is more when it comes to these brassicas, because this buckwheat is probably a little bit too thick, but that's all right. I'm just a cover crop. But when the brassicas get planted too thick, by the end of the growing season, they're just really stalky, and well, not stalky, but they just grow straight up, and they're just starved of nutrients. They're kind of yellow sometimes, and they're only about as big as these buckwheat stems. You want when brassicas get more room to grow, they can put on a stem like the size of a quarter, and the bulbs will be like the size of softballs. And like turnips, when they're this thick, they just barely make little radish bulbs like that, hardly anything. Let's see if we can see another seed down in here. Right here's one. So yeah, I'm gonna start crushing. And here's 2 more. So it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna go check out this side of the plot. Just look at the seed spacing, and then start crushing. This right here is the Sweet Feast Brassica blend side. Probably won't see any of the seeds on this side. They're all black and brown, like I said. And they're actually a little bit smaller too, the Brassica seeds in this blend. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything, but I put down some, so. It's interesting, I can't even see them. Well, whatever, they're down. I'm gonna start crushing, and then I'll spray it, you know, when it's all crushed down. I actually have to fertilize too. I was gonna seed first, so you know, you can kind of tell where you walk through here, you kind of crush this stuff down pretty easy. I gotta fertilize, and then I'm gonna crush it down. Well, it's all crushed down. It definitely crushed down better in the areas where the buckwheat was taller, like back that way. Some of those areas where the buckwheat was pretty short, maybe up along this edge too a little bit, about like maybe 10-25% of it still standing. There was some pretty heavy weeds over there, so I'll have to come back in here and spray this good, especially in those areas that were right there is a lot of weeds, so I don't want all of them to come back. Well, out here checking up on the no-till plot. It's kind of interesting what's coming up. You can see we got a really good kill on all of the buckwheat and the few weeds that were in here. Like here's a water hemp weed that's coming back. There's a few of them that didn't kill. But what's really interesting is, see that? That's buckwheat. That's buckwheat, that's buckwheat. And here's some brassicas. So that buckwheat, it didn't have seeds on it. It was all just flowering out. But I'm thinking that the buckwheat I'm seeing in here, which there is quite a bit of it, is just leftover seed that didn't germinate the first round, because when I planted the buckwheat the first round, that's when we had that super long stretch, almost 3 to 4 weeks without any rain. And it's kind of weird how it didn't germinate until now. Maybe the extra sunlight, the buckwheat that did grow, shaded out the weeds, shaded out the seeds. I don't know, it just kind of sucks because I don't really want that stuff in here. It's going to compete with the brassicas pretty good. It's basically going to act as a weed. It grows really fast, and as soon as we get a frost, it's going to be dead. You can see here's a bunch of buckwheat. It's quite a bit bigger than these brassicas right here. That's buckwheat. There's a brassica. There's another brassica. That's a radish. Buckwheat, buckwheat. So, kind of sucks, but whatever. I'll take you down. You'll see there's a lot down this way. And see these weeds? That's the water hemp weed. That's a bad weed. And this is all weeds coming up right here too. Way down on the end of the plot here, you can see buckwheat, buckwheat. About half these little green plants are all buckwheat, and the other half is brassica. And then in certain patches like this, here was a tall weed that was growing amongst the buckwheat, and he obviously didn't kill. Look at that. Hopefully he doesn't get much bigger than that. And you can see all of this is all water hemp. All these little weeds coming up. That's a brassica, but just surrounded by water hemp weeds, and those things are going to grow way faster than the brassicas will. And there's a lot of patches in here like that of just straight weeds. That's the worst weed in North America right now. It's basically Roundup resistant as soon as it gets about 6 inches tall. I mean, look at that. But there is brassicas in here, you can see. And I mean, as soon as we get a frost, that water hemp just kills immediately, just like the buckwheat will. So it'll kind of, you know, as the fall goes on, the brassicas will just pop out as soon as we get a frost. But this buckwheat and water hemp weeds are going to definitely hinder the growth a little bit of these brassicas. They're not going to get to their full potential probably. It's going to be kind of a weedy looking plot probably, but whatever. It's not a winter food source, it's just a hunt plot right here. And our winter food looks amazing. Look at those soybeans. That's about an acre there, about an acre and a half of corn right there. So that's what's going to hold them the whole winter. This is just a hunt plot when they come out. So I'll check back with you in maybe a few weeks. Well, back out at the no-till plot. It's coming along. There is quite a few thin spots, but that's all right. We got plenty of other food right behind me here. Acre of soybeans, acre and a half of corn right there. This is just a hunt plot to, you know, hold the does close, and so they feed here every single day on this plot. Get a pattern of use down. They're actually browsing on this this buckwheat quite a bit. So like I said, there was some weeds that survived the spraying and other weeds that are growing back. Like where I'm standing, there's just one brassica there, one there. It's pretty bad, but the best area is like right here. And then going that way, I'll have to walk down that way and come up because it's too much sun glare. But as you can tell, look at this buckwheat. That's a big stem and it's just nipped right off. That one's nipped off. And the funny thing is, I planted that buckwheat back in early June. Here's all the buckwheat that I crushed down. There was like winter rye and regrowth of brassicas from this spring that I seeded the buckwheat into, but it was so dry, some of it must not have germinated until now, until crushing. So it's like it got shaded. Like half the buckwheat, probably like 90% of the buckwheat germinated when I originally planted it. But then when it got going and growing, it was, like I said, it's been so dry. There was a few seeds probably scattered throughout this plot. Once they got in the shade, they just never germinated until I crushed all the big tall buckwheat down. So it's kind of a good thing, honestly. The deer are really hitting this stuff good. And I see a lot of weeds in here that are browsed on too. So the buckwheat and the weeds will act as like an early season attractant. And then once the frost comes and kills off all the buckwheat and weeds, then they'll just switch right over to the brassicas because it'll be the only thing green then. This side right here is the Sweet Feast Brassica blend, the Jeff Sturgis Brassica blend. Going this way, this is all winter greens. So this has more variety of brassica. It's got more different varieties, and it's got the tillage radish. This does not have tillage radish, and it's mainly just kale and forage rape, a few purple top turnips, but it's mainly just the rape and kale in the winter greens mix. So right at the bottom of the plot here, you can see these trees are growing out of control. That's only a 3-year-old tree, a hybrid poplar, and it's already busting through the tube. Insane. It's probably like 20 feet tall. Anyways, you can see the brassicas here. This is the wintergreen side. I'm going to walk back up because there's less sun glare here. So yeah, the brassicas are way thinner than they should be. So I'm going to come in today and seed. I got 2 bags of winter rye. I may or may not put it all down, but I'm going to put quite a bit down because there is quite a few gaps in here of nothing. But this all looks pretty good. These brassicas still have at least 3 weeks to basically all of September yet to grow. So they'll get, you know, once they're at this stage, they really take off fast if we can get some moisture. I fertilized this plot, it would have been a week ago. So I already got the urea down, but we need some moisture. Like this is all just terrible here, but that is better. And then coming up this direction, this is the Sweet Feast Brassica blend side. Lots of weeds. This is water hemp, basically a Roundup resistant weed. But in all reality, it looks all right. Last year when I tilled this, it actually turned out better. If you don't get moisture, these no-till plots are really hard to grow. On a normal year, with more moisture, I'm sure it would have looked better. I probably should have seeded my brassicas a little thicker. I didn't want to go too heavy because whenever you plant brassicas way too thick, and when it comes to brassicas is not as good as too thin like this. I'd rather have a planting that's too thin with gaps in between, because these plants can get to their full potential and get as big as they can possibly get. When you have them too thin, they get nutrients deficiencies, they shrivel up and turn yellow and brown and sometimes purple, and they're all barely the size of pencils, and the deer kind of just avoid them. When they're big like this, they can suck up all the moisture and all the nutrients, and they can grow the most palatable leaves possible. Plus, whenever you have a super thick brassica planting, I've noticed, especially when it's close to knee high, like I've had in the past couple years when I planted early, and it was super thick, the deer, they'd only have like one trail that cuts through. When it's open like this with gaps, I feel like the deer like it when the brassicas are shorter. When the brassicas are so tall, they don't really go into them much until like later in the season, like late November, December. Now, early season like this, when if the brassicas were waist high in here, if I planted them early July and I had really good moisture, they would probably be close to thigh high, definitely knee high, the whole plot. But this year's a different story. I think it's better when the brassicas are smaller and when there's gaps in between the brassicas, because the deer, they don't like walking through, in my experiences, in my opinion, a super thick brassica plot. But super thick brassica plots with total canopy closure definitely offer more food, but that's not the end of the world, because I got an acre of soybeans there, acre and a half of corn there. I got about another acre of soybeans that way, about a half acre of corn that way, half acre of beans that way. So we got the winter covered. This is just our hunt plot. They'll all be coming out this way. I'm gonna seed this into rye today. So yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. Hope you learned something from this. I definitely learned something, that it's hard to grow no-till plots without rain. That's why I may or may not continue to no-till. I like it how it doesn't disturb the soil, but we have all the equipment where we could just till this up and probably get better results, especially on a dry year like this, because I can disc all this up after spraying, and then obviously broadcast the seed, and then just cultipack it in. When you cultipack these little seeds in, it basically just covers them up to the perfect depth where they'll be under the soil, and you'll definitely get better germination. But if I would have bumped up my seeding rate, it would have turned out just as good as a tilled plot with less seeds. So there'll be more brassica videos coming out. Not too many more. I didn't plant too many brassicas this year, but I think there will be one more. Yeah, there'll be one more video coming out of brassicas. That's another no-till plot just like this. I gotta get there sometime this weekend to do an update on that, and that'll probably be the final update as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. The season is approaching fast, so yeah. See you in the next video, guys.